6 more.
15.
21
No.
total.
It's 20.
I don't like 20.
I
21's
do.
better.
My contract says 20.
Your contract says, till death do us part.
All right. Ready?
Yep.
Ready. Ready? Okay.
Hey, let's talk about conflict resolution.
Let's fight.
What?
Let's fight.
Let's fight. All right. I don't think that'll go over well.
Okay.
Episode number 15, and let's talk about conflict resolution, because I think in business and life and relationships and family, we have holidays coming up. A lot of people are going to see their family.
Ooh.
And that's sometimes a lot of conflict. Thankfully, not so much. We don't really have that issue within our family, but I know it's a common thing. And conflict is, I think, the breaking point to relationships of all types every single day.
Yes. People don't know how to fight.
People don't know how to fight. People don't know how to argue.
Communicate.
How to disagree.
Mm-hmm.
And conflict is it's a natural thing. Whenever there's humans and there's human nature, there's always conflict. So I think this is a great topic to dive into, and maybe just give some pointers. I'll start by saying Ronnie and I have been together now since 2007, 16 years.
Yes.
16 years total in a relationship, and 13 years married. Mm-hmm. And we've had plenty of conflict, right? Mm-hmm. Probably less than most. I think we don't really...
It's not a competition.
Yeah, we don't... Well, I mean, if it was, we're losing. I don't think we argue very often. I mean, very, very rarely, to be honest. But there's always... I mean, in building a company over the last 13 years, in just life in general, in working in the people industry, mm-hmm. right, where we work with people, a lot of times there's conflict. We're not necessarily resolving our own conflict. We're helping other people resolve their conflict, right? But conflict is that thing that will go with everyone everywhere, because wherever there's people, there's problems.
Agree.
So I don't think, though, that everyone is raised with a healthy understanding of how to resolve conflict.
I think Miley just turned on the home pod.
Yeah, the music just turned on downstairs. It's good? All right,
okay.
We'll rock with it. So I don't think everyone's taught how to resolve conflict in a healthy way. The fact that, is it okay to disagree?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. It would be kind of weird if, just everyone agreed with everyone all the time.
Okay.
I think it's normal to disagree.
Is it okay and normal to fight?
Yeah, it's normal.
Is it okay and normal to get mad?
Yeah.
Is it okay and normal to throw things and break things?
No, absolutely.
Right. So there is a healthy amount of disagreement, but
yes.
then it very quickly can lead to unhealthy.
It can escalate, yes.
In business, is it okay and normal to disagree?
Yes.
Is it okay and normal to fight?
Yes, in a healthy. I don't know. That's different.
That's different, right? Maybe in a.
I would never say
in a healthy,
fight,
respectful manner. Maybe in private, but not. I think there's a fine line there, right? And so let's discuss conflict then, because I think there's a recipe for resolving conflict. Mm-hmm. And doing it correctly. And I think the more in business that you can resolve conflict in a healthy manner and doing it correctly to the best of your ability, I think that's a big dictating factor on how big you can get and how large you could grow your company, because this is something that strengthens your company if you create a culture of conflict resolution.
I agree.
Okay. A culture of conflict resolution. So let's talk about it. First off, I think we did cover an episode on this a couple seasons ago. or maybe it was last year, briefly. But let's visit the first point. Going into conflict, first of all, most people avoid it altogether. Right or wrong?
The majority of people.
Yeah, not everyone likes conflict. They don't do well with conflict. Some people, what do they call it? They just avoid confrontation, right? They say, I don't do good with confrontation.
It can be intimidating. It can be scary.
So number one is if we have a problem, what do?
Talk about it.
That's the right answer. What do most people do?
Ignore it.
Ignore it,
Complain.
right? Pretend it doesn't exist.
To other people and ignore it.
Complain to other people.
Not to the person you're having an issue
So the first thing is I go, man, you know what? I'm freaking tired of Jay Justin. He pisses me off. And instead of telling Jay Justin, what do?
You tell me.
I tell you. And instead of telling just you, what else do?
You tell someone else.
I go tell someone else, like, doesn't that guy effing piss you off? You know? And before you know it, now what do most people do when they receive that information?
As the listener,
Yeah.
they might tell someone else.
They go tell somebody else, right? Sometimes.
Guess what? Jay's mad at DJ. It's the battle of the Jays.
Sometimes they even go tell Jay Justin. Right, hey, bro, just so you know, so-and-so was talking shit about you yesterday. You know, but like, and then what does Jay Justin do?
Now he's mad.
But he doesn't necessarily call me either.
No, so he's talking shit about you now.
You see what I mean? This is the first step. Now, this is how they do it in junior high, and this is also how they do it in adulthood. And that right there is unhealthy. Now, the proper way to address conflict is when I have a frustration, because that's usually where it starts. It's a frustration. It's this little tiny feeling where I hear Jay Justin's name and I'm like, ugh, right? And that right there tells me something's wrong. The best way to address it, and the way I do it, first I write it down. I literally write it down. I'm upset with Jay Justin because da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I write it down and I look at it and I go, okay. I get this thought out of my head. I got it on paper now, or it's in my notes app. And I look at it and I go, all right, is this stupid? All right, maybe it is stupid. But even if it's stupid, the best thing for me to do is let him know. So sometimes I'll even text a person like, yo, I just want to let you know I'm annoyed with you because 1, 2, 3. I'm not, and the thing is I'm not saying he even, in some cases, I'm not even saying he did something wrong. I'm just telling him I'm annoyed with you because 1, 2, and 3. He may write back and be like, I have no clue what you're even talking about.
Right.
Like, what is number 2? What does that even mean? I'm like, oh, well, because last night when we went to eat and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I don't even remember that. I think that was a total misunderstanding. That could be the end of the problem. Now, let's pretend it's a big problem, though. Let's pretend it's an actual issue. Okay. Then what?
Then are you asking me, should you still write it down? I mean, maybe.
No, I'm still going to write it down.
Oh, okay.
That's how I gather my thoughts. But what should I do?
Well, I definitely would say bigger issues should be had in person or on the phone. At the very least, on the phone, FaceTime. But if you can, in person.
Okay. So I'm gonna say, hey, can we get a time to chat? You know, I want to chat with you about something.
Right. Just
sometimes I just call the person.
Yeah, but you got to be careful with that because sometimes you might catch them in that the wrong place, the wrong time.
So the first thing is in your approach, a lot of people make a mistake. They go into the conversation giving it absolutely no chance of having an good outcome. So my question for you going into the conversation is, how can you approach the conversation without putting the other person immediately on defense where they feel like they got to defend themselves? Because that's the wrong way to approach a conversation. I go into the conversation, hey man, I'm freaking pissed at you, bro, because you always do this crap. Right away, he's like, wait, hold on a second. Instantly defensive, right?
Well, because you're going from, I had no idea, in a lot of situations, I had no idea there was an issue, to now, this sounds like an issue with history.
Yeah, like I always do what crap? What are you talking about? Right? And I'm instantly defensive because of the way I was approached. So you got to go into the conversation with neutral. Hey, I want to express to you why I'm frustrated. Okay? So could I do that real quick? Because I'm frustrated with you. So can I just tell you why? Yeah, sure. Tell me why. I feel, see, that's how you lead the conversation. I feel, not you always. One time I was talking to someone and they said, the best thing you could do in conflict is when you're communicating with someone, refrain from using the word you. Every time you lead a sentence with you, right? Like, you always this, you did this. Versus the better way to lead with the conversation is I feel like, right? Because that means it's a feeling. It's not necessarily factual that something was done wrong. I feel like you blah 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 versus, well, you always this, you always that. Right? So the first thing is that. And then the next thing is what's the outcome of the conversation?
What's the intention?
Yeah, so what should the intention be? What are the options?
Well, one could be to, yell at them, tell them they're wrong, and you're hoping that, they admit to being a terrible person, and then you can go about your separate ways.
Okay.
Most,
So yell at them, tell them they're a piece of crap.
Yeah.
All the things they did wrong. And hopefully they have a come to Jesus moment where they go, you know what?
I am a piece
You're
of crap.
right. I am a piece of crap. How did I not realize that up to? I think that's the result that most people are looking for.
Yes, no,
But that
I don't
doesn't
think we
happen.
stop and think about it like that, but I think, we play out these scenarios out in our head.
So that's option one.
Yeah.
Right? Full blown murder and attack.
Yeah.
Okay. What's option two?
I mean, option two, which I think is usually, if you really, really stop to think about it, is that you want to repair the relationship
Okay.
and have the relationship be stronger than it was before.
So option two would be I want to go into this issue hoping to resolve it. And when we leave here, everything is great. Okay. Is there other options?
Yeah.
What are other options?
It just depends on the relationship, I think.
Yeah, the
Because
other
if it's-
options could be this is the last conversation we're ever going to have, and that's it. We're done.
I think that's an important question to ask yourself, though, before you're going to have some sort of conflict or, try to have a conflict resolution with someone is, what do I want the outcome to be? What's my intention behind it? So if it's with your spouse, obviously, hopefully, the intention is that we want to resolve this and come out stronger than we were before. Versus, if it's somebody at work, I'm guessing the result is to have a good working relationship with that person. If you're friends who work together, then I'm guessing it is to maintain that friendship
Right.
while being able to work with each other.
Right. So in a business setting, then a lot of times when you have frustrations, here's how you should lead with the conversation. Hey, I wanted to tell you I'm frustrated with you. And I'm frustrated with you for a couple reasons. 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Right? If you got this list of 20, then you probably should have had these conversations a long time
Yes.
ago, right? Because now they're adding up. And then it's going into the conversation without putting the person on defense. So I'm just telling you how I feel. I'm not saying you did anything right or wrong. Because sometimes they didn't necessarily. You can't point to something they necessarily did wrong, but it's a feeling, right? And then number 3 is deciding, well, what's my goal with the outcome? The correct outcome should be, I want to go into this conversation and I don't care about being right. Rather than being right, I want to come to a resolution and resolve the problem. In a relationship, I'll ask myself, okay, am I arguing with Ronnie because I want to be right, or am I arguing because I'm just trying to fix the issue? Right? In a business conversation, am I going in here because I want to prove my freaking point and I want to make it known that you effed up, or am I going into this conversation going, all right, well, whether I'm right, whether you're right, it doesn't really matter. I just want us to fix the challenge and us be good coming out of that. The next step in that conversation is being able to actually listen and empathize, right? So if I say, hey, let's pretend we're in business. I go, hey, I'm frustrated with you because I feel like you did this, this, and this. And honest to God, I feel like you did it on purpose because I can't think of any other reason why you would have done it. So I wanted to get that off my chest. I'm going to stop and I'm going to let you talk. And then my goal is to really actually listen and understand, what the other person's saying. As a kid, they say, like, oh, put yourself in the other person's shoes, right? I never understood what the heck that meant until I was an adult. And now I'm like, okay, put yourself. Now I get it. It took me 30 years to figure it out, or 20 years to figure it out. But now I get it. It's like, okay, let me understand. When the other person's giving me an explanation of what happened, let me actually listen. Now, do you feel like people actually listen?
It's hard. I think it takes practice.
Because they listen more to what? To
Respond.
respond, right? In even worse case is in conflict, they listen to react versus to process and understand and then reply, right? So listening to actually understand, listening and actually hearing the other person out is so hard for people if they go into the conversation wanting to be right and prove a point.
You're fighting a losing battle.
Yeah, because what do they usually do? Constantly interrupt. Well, but the whole entire time. And where does that get?
Nowhere. Circles.
Circles and tensions constantly. Like you wonder, well, why are we both yelling now?
'Cause
Well,
no
we're
one's
both
listening.
yelling because no one's listening, and one person got a little louder, and one person got a little louder so they could be heard, and a little louder. And before you know it, both people are screaming. No one's hearing a freaking word, and now things are what? 40 times worse. Like we would have been better off never even bringing up the conversation at all. And that's how things blow up into a big thing. And so listening to actually understand, respond, not react. Let's talk about another key point in conflict resolution. Taking ownership. It's a hard one.
It is.
What's taking ownership mean?
It means that in every relationship, there's two people. So in every conflict, there is part to take ownership in. It depends on the issue, but maybe I wasn't listening. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. Maybe I wasn't, aware of what I was saying or what I was doing. It's just because you care about the other person, what role did you play in it?
Now, what if I'm like, honest to God, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything wrong.
But you care about their feelings, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
You care about the way you make them feel.
Now, what if you don't? I know someone's listening to this right now. They're like, I don't give a shit what that person thinks.
Well, it's a little harder to have a conversation, but what's the goal then? Just to have a...
That was exactly what I was going to say. If you don't care, then why are you having the conversation, period?
It's pointless. You're just digging the hole deeper. It's not...
Now, Ronnie and I have a rule, which is that if we don't respect you, then we won't even have a conversation with you. Right? True or false?
True. It's just...
Because what's the point?
Yeah.
Right? But if I value the relationship, or if I'm stuck with the individual, then I will have the conversation. So, for example, let's pretend it was my upline, right? Which in my case is Charlie A., right? Our coach. We have a great relationship with Dan, loyal to the end of the world. Let's pretend I hated his guts, though. I'm still stuck with him. And because I'm still stuck with him, even if I didn't like him, I'm still stuck with him. And there are a lot of things that I do in business that require his approval, right? So if I'm stuck with the guy or the lady, then I have to value that relationship to some extent, because if I burn my bridge, all I do is screw myself. That's the whole don't bite the hand that feeds you, right? And so in all those scenarios, those are conversations and relationships that do matter. Therefore, maintaining a healthy and good relationship is important.
Yeah. You've got to really... Not all relationships should be viewed equally. So the conversations you're going to have with your family are not the same conversations you should have with people that you work with. And your friends too, right? Your friends, maybe a friend who did something really bad to you, hurt your feelings really badly. You would feel comfortable cutting them off and being like, I'm never going to talk to you again, because maybe you won't see them on a daily basis. But if you're working with somebody, that's a relationship that needs to have a healthy, status always.
There's a couple times though in conflict, because I think most people really struggle in this department. And just in the 13 years of experience, I've seen it. In the 13 years, we've gotten really good with conflict, because we have to be in business. You have to be good at this. This is an important skill that makes or breaks you in business. What I've come to find is that in most cases, when a problem doesn't get resolved and can't get resolved, there's only one reason why.
Why? Ego.
Is that my ego will not allow this situation to get fixed, right? Because resolution in a lot of cases requires ownership, right? Resolution requires a little bit of humbleness. It requires me at the end of the conversation to be able to go, you know what? This was a mess. And there are areas that I know I could have improved in. There are areas that I know I could have handled better. There are things that I know I could have probably done a little bit better job on. And I take ownership of all those things. And I apologize on behalf of myself for all those areas that I probably could have done better. And, I just want to get that out there and then move on. Well, most people can't do that. I don't do nothing wrong. But when the reality is your current attitude in the current conversation is exactly what you're doing wrong right now.
It can cost you a lot. I mean, we all have egos, right? We have to keep them in check. But something like that can cost you a lot in business and relationships.
Yeah, and we've had problems that take years to resolve because all parties are required in resolution, and some people just like, I don't know, it's a maturity thing, I guess, or a overcompensating thing, where you feel like you just have to be this hard ass, and the reality is people aren't always going to bend at your knee and fall on the sword when it takes two. There's so many times when if I go, hey, you know what? My bad. I screwed up. There are areas that I screwed up all along this process that could have been better. The second you do that, the other person, their defenses go down and they go, well, shoot, you know what? You're right. I screwed up too. I had a conversation the other day with someone who literally, I made one phone call. They popped in my head, not in business with us, not on our team, but I knew there's a situation that's been going on for years. I called the person. And I said, hey, I'm reaching out to you because I'm actually going to follow up on this after this and see what ended up happening. I'm reaching out to you because you popped in my head, and I know you've been battling this, and I know this is what you want, and I know this is the situation. And if I was you, this is what I would do. I would go and I would do this. And I would do this to wipe your hands clean of it. I know you're sitting there trying to figure out what I'm talking about. You'd be in a distraction now.
I know.
I would go wipe my hands clean of it. And the person's like, I can't believe that you thought about me and called me about this. I said, dude, I was doing my meditation. You popped in my head. And I figured, you know what? If I was her, this is what I would do because that's the only solution, which is you got to give away control and just wipe it clean. But do it now while no one's asking you to and no one expects you to. And my point of the whole thing is that sometimes in order for other people to put their guards down and put their sword down and put the guns down and bring the walls down, you have to be willing to do that. And the best time to do it is to do it unprovoked. Because when you do it unprovoked, you get all the credit for it. When no one else is, when your mom's not like, hey, you need to apologize, like that don't mean nothing. No, you don't get no credit for that. But when you willingly go, hey, you know what? Boom. I apologize. It was my mistake. Sometimes it's not even your mistake, but it's about resolution, and you also get all the credit because when you bring your walls down and you put the weapons down, the other person sits there and they look so stupid if they don't do the same thing. You know what I mean? True or false?
Sure.
It takes two people to fight.
I don't think anybody's conscious of like doing that.
Conscious of doing what?
Of like looking stupid.
No, I'm talking about in conflict. Mm-hmm. If we're fighting and then I go, you know what? You're right. I screwed up. My bad. And then the other person, yeah, you're right. It is your bad. And they keep on going. It's like, whoa, hold on a second. That's my point is that doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. If one person says, you know what, let's fix this. Typically, the natural response, because there's cause and effect, right? The natural response is that the other person goes, me too. I screwed up too, right? And that's the end of it. But it takes somebody sometimes to initiate that. Real quick, as we finish off, let's talk about extending grace and mercy. Okay, because here's my belief. And this is in the Bible too. The Bible talks about this. What you expect of others is also demanded of yourself. And it's interesting when you meet people who are so they're such hard asses on on little things. But the reality is like, if you're going to be so hard on everyone else, you got to be perfect.
Right.
You got to be freaking perfect. That's where the whole, he without sin cast the first stone, and ain't nobody throwing any stones because ain't nobody perfect, right? But it's interesting when you have someone who's so hard, like, I can't believe them. This is terrible. And blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yo, you can't be walking around with an attitude like that unless you're freaking perfect, because what you expect of other people is going to be demanded of you the same way. Right or wrong?
Yeah, right.
Okay, so the difference between grace and mercy. So we talked before about how you always want to extend grace, and like leave room for people to make mistakes. Because someday when you screw everything up, you're going to what?
You're going to need some grace.
You're going to need some grace, right? So the difference between grace and mercy. Grace is getting something you don't deserve.
Okay.
So does everyone deserve, especially if we're talking business, second chances?
Yeah, I would say so.
Now, what about third chances?
Are we talking about the law? Because the law says no.
What about fourth chances? It depends. It depends on what the issue is.
It depends on every single situation. If it's legal, you're probably not going to get more than one chance. If it's illegal, then it's illegal.
If we're talking about character flaws,
Yes.
integrity issues, right? It depends on the situation, right? But grace is like, all right, you know what? My bad. I screwed up. And someone goes, all right, I forgive you. It's cool. Now, mercy is a little bit different. Mercy is you not getting what you actually deserve, right? So what grace means is like, all right, I'm giving you something you don't deserve, which is another chance. It's all good. Don't worry about it. I know it was a mistake. Mercy is like, you deserve to get your ass terminated right now, or kicked out of the office, or me to delete your freaking number. But because I care about you, that I'm actually not gonna do that. Right? Now the Bible is very clear. God shows grace and mercy, to everybody on a daily basis. But as we finish up, I think the one thing that I would say is that as people, if you live by the rule that whatever you expect of others is going to be demanded, probably even more of yourself, I think it's very easy to show grace and mercy, especially in conflict resolution.
Is that a question?
No.
You're right.
You guys, man, I'm telling you, don't be a hard ass. Don't run around playing God, and being the harder you are in conflict, and the harder you are on letting things go, the harder it's gonna be on you.
This is the way I go through life, because I just think, every single person who's listening, watching, however you're absorbing this information, but life has not been always kind to you. You've had to go through things. You grew up a certain way. You've had your own individual struggles. And every single day you encounter people who maybe they're nice to you, they're rude to you, they, wrong you in some way, seems intentional, it's not intentional. You have to remember that you just don't know what people are going through in their home life, wherever they're coming from, in their day, their family, their loved ones. You just don't know. And so the same grace that, you hope other people extend to you, you are extending to other people. And sometimes we extend more grace to people we don't know than to those who we spend the most time with. And if you just operate through a place of love and consideration and just care, then I feel like you're going to receive the same in return.
Yeah, 1,000%. And don't take those little things personally.
No.
That's where a lot of it comes from is people take things personally and they're offended by it. And then they carry it, and they continue to carry it. Like, remember that time you were in the Starbucks drive-thru?
I always think about that.
And the lady behind you was like yelling at you and cussing at you. Get off your effing phone. You're like, where am I supposed to go, dude? Like, there's 6 people in line in front of me in the car. And she's just laying on her horn, right?
Yeah.
and just being a total jerk, right? And then Ronnie, of course, paid for all her drinks, for the car behind her type of thing. But my point is like you never know. Like you said, you don't know what someone's going through. But then if that was someone in your workplace who gave you a dirty look or made a rude comment or kind of snapped at you, and you caught them in a bad moment, but then you carry it, and for the next 3 weeks, I can't believe that freaking jerk. Every time you look at them, that's the breeding ground of resentment and conflict. Where if you're just don't take things personal, like Ronnie said, you don't know what someone's going through. You observe everything, but you absorb nothing. Then the reality is you never have any problems. If you're the person always stuck in the middle of problems, if you're the person always offended, if you're the one who's always being wronged, you're the one who's always upset, you're the one always coming to people going, I'm frustrated with you, then it's very possible that you are the problem because you are so easily wronged and easily made frustrated and easily offended. And maybe you just gotta, have a little bit thicker skin and let things kind of just bounce off.
So good luck.
So good luck. All right.
All right, guys, thank you for watching. As always, we appreciate you. Hopefully you found some value in this. We do this because we want to help, and so hopefully it helped you. But we will see you on the next one.
All right, we're
Bye,
out.
guys.